behind the scenes will sort you out. We do have a Q&A session, and can I ask you just up to the Q&A, so for the first part this morning we keep the chat for the Q&A. You're more than welcome to use the chat for networking afterwards, but up to the first break, up to 11:15, could you please just keep it for the Q&A? There's plenty of time and opportunity to network and connect today. And just to note that you can follow us on the hashtag UK in Horizon, and this webinar will be partly recorded. So just in the afternoon when we have the breakout sessions and the pictures, that will not be recorded. But this morning's session with the NCPs will be. So let's start. First of all, the agenda. So we've had a virtual networking, one of our meetings before we start this morning. We have welcome and introduction I'm doing now. We have Get Ready for Horizon Europe with the National Contact Point team who's joined us today, who will give you really good hints and tips in terms of how to find the right partners for your consortium. And then we will be moving into the pitches, and session one will be before lunch, and then pitch two session two will be after lunch, and then we'll be having the parallel sessions and the virtual roundtables. There will be opportunities then, of course, for the one-to-one meeting opportunities after that. So the one-to-one meetings, you can organise one-to-one meetings with other registered users, and you'll be able to create your own profile and search for user profiles and book video chat meetings by the platform. And you can also search by organisation or keyword. And don't forget to confirm your requested meetings. Just to stress that the Meeting Mojo is a different platform to Zoom, so please, you have to come out of Zoom to go into Meeting Mojo if you wish to do that. But this will remain open till the 21st, to the end of July. So first of all, Horizon Europe. This began back in 1984, and now it is a 7-year. It lasts 7 years, and it aligns with the EU multi-annual financial framework. We did have Horizon 2020, which ran from 2014 to 2020, and that had a massive 80 billion euros. And now we're moving into Horizon Europe, and this will run from 2021 to 2027. And it is the 9th framework programme, and it's the successor to Horizon 2020, and it'll have a budget of 95.5 billion budget. And the work programmes are now published and available on the European Commission website. Just to stress that the UK has agreed to associate with Horizon Europe, and UK entities will have the equivalent participation rights as those as member states and can lead projects as a coordinator. The UK has a continued access to Horizon Europe across the programme, and the majority can access the EIC, which was the SME instrument in Horizon 2020, the European Innovation Council, with the exception of the Accelerator Equity Fund. So if you're in the UK, you can only participate in the grant portion of the Accelerator. The work programme level exclusions only might be exceptional in justifiable cases, for example, security and defence. Participation and influence on the programme and governance structures, the national contact points are still able to now attend the programme committees and can obviously have a say. And the UK experts can also continue to take part in the peer review and evaluation. So it's a really good opportunity. If you want to learn how to make what makes a really good proposal is to become a UK expert. You see a lot of proposals, it gives you an opportunity, and you can register to be an expert if you click on the link there. So the associated countries is not new. Horizon 2020 had 16 associated countries, including Israel, Switzerland, Norway and Turkey. And if you want any further information and confirmation from the EU on UK participation, there's a Q&A section on the link there. So Horizon Europe will be looking at Pillar 2 today, and today we're concentrating on climate, energy and mobility, and cluster 6, food, bioeconomy and natural resources, agriculture and environment. So just to go over the key themes, in cluster 5, we have climate, energy and mobility. So climate is destination 1 and 2, energy is destinations 3 and 4, and mobility is destinations 5 and 6. You can see the budgets there for each area. And just to stress that the call deadlines, the calls are opening on the 24th of June for climate and energy and mobility. And you can see the deadlines on the 14th of September for mobility and climate, and for energy, it's the 19th of October. And for cluster 6, there are 6 destination areas. You can see the various topics there. And just to stress here, for 2021 calls, it opens on the 22nd of June and closes on the 6th of October, and 2022 calls open the 28th of October and close on the 15th of February. So without further ado, we move over to the national contact points, who will be giving you information and advice on how to find the right partner. So over to the NCPs.
Thanks, Jane. So I'll just share my screen. Sorry about the delay there. So good morning, everybody. You're going to get all of these slides, so you'll get all the links and all the email addresses and all of the information. But if you wanted to take a screenshot at any time, so you've got the national contact point email addresses there and then, please do feel free to do that. So I'm going to talk to you first. I'm one of the cluster 5 national contact points. I look after the mobility part of the programme, whereas we also have on the call today Catherine from the climate part of the programme, Helen Fairclough, and I think perhaps her colleague Kerry is not with us today, but Helen will be talking about the energy part of the programme if you need any support there. And we also have the cluster 6 national contact point. So Helen and Paul share an email address there that you can see, and then Catherine once again, because climate and environment sit nicely across both clusters 5 and 6, and so Catherine sits across both those clusters too. So these are the things I'm going to talk about, a bit about what the national contact point is and how to go about building a winning consortium. Then my colleagues will take over and talk about the following bullets there that you can see, and we'll end up with a Q&A. Please do start now asking your questions in the chat box, and then Viola and Jane will coordinate and we'll do those live towards the end. So national contact points. What is a national contact point? Well, in the UK, we are a team of public sector servants. So we work as taxpayer funded. So you've paid for us already. Thank you very much. You don't need to pay for us again. We're not consultants. So we're providing free support to anybody within the UK who is considering getting involved in Horizon Europe. So the sorts of things that we do are, we raise awareness about the whole initiative. We have social media accounts. We do webinars and briefings and things like this. We also work with specific organisations on a one-to-one basis to help them understand how to engage with Horizon Europe for them. So which is the right competition for them to be part of? How can they form the right teams? We will also work with reviewing the proposal and giving them feedback as to whether we think they know how they could improve upon that. And you'll see that when you get the slide deck, there's a link here to the whole of the UK NCP network, because you've got a few of us on the call today, but there's actually also national contact points covering health, security, a whole host of other types of sectors. Digital, manufacturing and industries, space, mustn't forget space because Catherine covers space as well. So the whole group of us, every sector you can think of, and we work together as a team. We also work together as a team with our counterparts across Europe. So I had an email exchange very recently with my Maltese counterpart, with my Netherlands, with my Poland. So we work across not just Europe, but internationally. So there is a national contact point for Horizon Europe for Taiwan. happens to be based in London, which is why I know them. So we are a team, and we work both across the sectors in the UK and then within the sectors across Europe and beyond. So do get in touch. If you're on the call today and you're not from the UK, when you get this slide deck, you can see how to find your national contact point. So building a winning consortium is half the battle. Writing the winning proposal is the other half, but putting the right team together, the winning team together, is quite a considerable challenge, and you should address this as if it is a project in its own right. You need to win a place on a good consortium that is likely to succeed. Putting together an adequate consortium, not so difficult. Putting together a winning one, a bit of a challenge. We recognise that, and we're here to help you and support you doing that. So, what do your ideal partners look like? Well, ideally, of course, they need to be expert in their area. This isn't necessarily just the technical. It can be the business development and the rollout, the commercialization. It can be the communications and dissemination. So whatever their expertise is the thing that you're looking for. So look for their track record, look them up, check on them. You want people that are enthusiastic and committed. You don't really want to be having to chase people. So you want them to be responsive to the coordinator's requests and to their teammates. This is something that's being done as a consortium. You want people to engage and work together as a team. Clearly, a lot of that is virtual across the internet and virtual systems. But then you need to be able to know that these people will work on that to make it work for you. And of course, you want to trust them. So you want to trust that they are going to be an expert and enthusiastic and responsive. So people that you know, or people that other people know and recommend to you. These are the sorts of people that also make very good partners. Of course, you don't have to have known everybody previously, otherwise we would never get anybody new involved. But think about how you would go around ensuring that the team that you've put together are people that you can work with. So starting to build a consortium, and we'll go into this a little bit more later on, is think about the actual project that you want to do. So the core topic being EU Speak for Competition. So you need to read the competition, the scope, the expected deliverables very carefully, and think about what types of expertise are needed for this project, including the sectors and the disciplines. So do you need academia and industry? Do you need the stakeholders, the users? Do you need local government, national government? Lots of those, for example, in the mobility part of the programme, require local transport authorities. Or, for example, you might need a specific ports, shipping infrastructure. Think about people that you've worked with before, or have got the right expertise. So this is how you get in touch with people who know people. So ask your professional network. Who do you know that might be suitable to work with us on this project? And then think about what gaps you still have. Where might you find good partners to fill those gaps? It's like a jigsaw. You need every piece in the jigsaw. A jigsaw with a piece missing is no good to anybody. It's very frustrating. So how will people get involved? Are they all going to be partners, participants, beneficiaries of the project? Or will you need some advisory groups who are not directly participant and beneficiaries of the project, but they might have their costs covered? You might need subcontractors in this as well for specific activities. Think about those too. Recognise that this needs to be a European programme. So European projects. I'm talking specifically now to the UK people on the call. You need to talk to your European partners, and you need to develop a proposal which fills the European brief. This is the same for any national, actually. It needs to be a European approach. And so it is very good to have some organisations that have already got some experience of doing framework programmes. Have they done Horizon 2020? What sort of track record have they got in those? And we can look that up, and I'll show you how to do that. So there are lots of formal consortium building mechanisms, and there's a few that I'm going to tell you a little bit more about in a moment. So yes, there is a participant portal. Also, it's officially called the EU Funding and Tender Opportunities Portal, but commonly known as a participant portal. And we'll take you through that in a moment, and I'll do a bit of a demo to show you how you can do a partner search. There are lots of actual formal brokerage events. You're at one now, say formally informal. So the KTN and Meeting Mojo, the European Enterprise Network, do B2Bs, the national contact points from around Europe do them as well. So there are lots of formal brokerage events and other ways of engaging virtually. Clearly at the moment, there are very few live brokerage events happening right now. There are a partner search function in the How to Participate tab on this participant portal as well. And you can use Cordis. Cordis is a system where you can actually look at what projects have been funded previously. They might still be underway, but you can see at what projects are similar to the project you want to do and who's doing them. And then you can actually interact with those people too. But it is a bit like looking for a needle in a needle stack. They all look very good because they are presenting themselves very well, as anybody would, as we expect you to do so too. So I'll give you some hints and tips on how to do this. So I've got a few slides that might need if the demonstration live demo doesn't work, because internet doesn't always work, but we'll try doing a live demo first on the EU participant portal. And I've clicked on the demo button. Come on, something work? Anything? Let's see if it's working if I get out. Oh, there we go. It might be working twice. It was just taking a bit slow. So hopefully you can see this. Will one of the team from the speakers team tell me you can see it? Jane?
Yeah, you can see it. Yeah, it's all good.
Excellent. Good. Just want to check. So this is what the EU Funding and Tender Opportunities portal looks like for those that haven't seen it before. One of the things you should always do first, if you've never seen this before, and even if you have but you haven't yet registered, is to register up here and create yourself a personal account. This is for you and your email address. You will need this to be able to engage the partners that are putting themselves up here for seeking consortium membership. So register, create yourself a personal login. If you've got one already, then you'll need to log in before you can engage with any of the partners that put themselves on here. Within the How to Participate, I mentioned that there is a direct partner search here. I'm not going to demonstrate that right now. There will be a video of it in the slide deck that you're going to get. One thing I will say is this participant register here is for your organisation if you are not yet registered. If you don't have a participant identification code, or if you don't know it, you can look it up here. But this is where you as an organisation would register. But what I'm going to do now is show you how to search the funding and tenders for your topic of interest, and therefore who else is interested in being a partner in that topic. So I'm just going to do a search funding and tenders. And the European Commission purchases absolutely everything through this portal. So clearly there's far too many. It's found 11,000 answers. We don't want all 11,000, 10,000 of them are closed. So I'm going to untick the closed box and say, okay, now we're only interested in those that are either forthcoming or open. And now actually I'm going to say we're only interested in Horizon Europe. So let's go through and just say we only want Horizon Europe. Now we're down to the 803 that are either forthcoming or open. And from here, what you can do is you can choose just cluster that you're interested in. So you could tick just climate, energy and mobility. I'm not going to do that right now because I want to show what happens when you do a keyword, because if you just look within the cluster that you think is of interest, you may miss things that are relevant to you in other clusters. So I'm going to try typing in this box a keyword hydrogen and see what happens and search for topics for forthcoming competitions that cover hydrogen. And there's quite a few. As you see, we found 14 now. So if hydrogen is a thing that you're interested in, these 14 are worth investigating. So we've got novel routes to green hydrogen production as part of the Pathfinder. We've got here things that are part of the Cluster 4, Twin Transition, and Cluster 5 here. And I'm going to look at this one because this is part of my part of the programme. So this is a ships one, so it's part of the mobility, enabling the safe and efficient onboard storage and integration within ships of large quantities of ammonia and hydrogen fuels. So, okay, let's see what that topic has to say for itself. If you haven't seen this system working yet, you'll see that there is all sorts of information now here. So we get the background, including the opening and the closing date. You can look at the budgets. You can see in this, if I were to click on the show more, it would show you the full topic description and more information about the destination and the topic conditions. But what I'm interested in showing you today, because this is all about forming teams, is this part of the project, the buttons here, partner search. So if I click on that, it will show us that there are 4 organisations that have put themselves forward as seeking partners for this topic. You can do this too, but only when you've created an account for yourself. So you can put yourselves up here and say, we're seeking partners for this topic or any of the other topics that are of interest to you. So I'm going to click on this one because I checked earlier that it looks a good one to look at. So this is a small or medium enterprise from Poland, and they've got some experience. And so let's have a look a little bit more about them. Okay, so now we're into a website that will tell us a little bit more about it here. They've got some keywords that they've put in for themselves. They've done 2 projects before as a beneficiary, so they've not coordinated, but they have done 2 Horizon 2020 projects, so they know a little bit about what it's like to do. And you can see who they've done these with. So I can zoom in a little bit, and again, we can see that they've done 2 with Ireland. They've done 1 up here with Microresist Technology up here in Germany. And if I can zoom in a little bit more, it will tell us that they've done something here with Leicester University and with Southampton University. Said, okay, so these guys look like they know a little bit about what they're talking about. And what I can then do is, oh, okay, we can look at which projects they did. We can also look at which other topics they're interested in. So as well as this one on hydrogen storage for shipping, they're interested in a cluster 6 farm to fork. Okay. And another one here on cluster 6 and onwards. But let's just have a look at the projects that they did previously. They did this one, a marketable polymer-based AIS battery. Oh, is that AI? No, it could be aluminium sulfide. Of course it is. Difficult to tell. So it's now taken us to this other website called Cordis. And now we can see from this here a lot more information about that one project that this company, this organisation was part of. You get some background about the project. The project began in October, just gone, so it's not been going for very long. You can see some more about the project, the objectives here. And if I scroll down the page, which shows us who's doing this project with them, again, able to zoom in. And we can see who's coordinating. And now here's where it's useful. You need to be able to have logged in. If I click on this button, it will go and insist I've logged in. But we can now see who coordinated this project and is still doing. You can contact them. You can also see who within University of Leicester was doing this, and you can contact the part of University of Leicester doing this project. So if this project is very similar to one that you wanted to do, you can actually contact the people doing it and say, we're interested in doing this new project. Do you want to talk to us about it? And see what sort of response you get. And this allows you to contact them directly. Now, while I'm in this Cordis website, which is another thing I was going to demonstrate, I want to just go back and show you other things that we can do in Cordis. And there's a link on the slide deck to take you straight there. So rather than looking at hydrogen in Cordis, I'm now going to go, okay, so what I'm really interested in is decarbonising shipping. And you can see I've practiced, I typed it in earlier to make sure it works. So if I type in decarbonising shipping, because that's actually my area of interest in Cordis, this will tell me all about projects that have been done or are already underway. And I'm going to say all I want to know about is projects. And all I want to know about is Horizon 2020 projects. It allows me to do lots of other filtering. So I can say, you know, what sort of funding scheme, how much it cost, who was in it, the originating country, all of those things. But for now, I'm just going to look at Horizon 2020 projects on decarbonising shipping. Let's have a look. Oh, 56. Okay. So we've got now, we can either just add to the booklet and read it at our leisure later, or we can actually look at each project in turn to see a little bit more about what that project was doing and who was doing it. So let's have a look at this one. Decarbonising shipping. You can see this is a €10 million project, and we go through, and once again you can see who's doing it, and we can contact them, including the coordinator. So going back to the slide deck now, I'm going to skip through some slides because this is a video that would show you how to do this when you get the slide deck, and then a video of how to search Cordis, and then a few slides that show what I found in Cordis just now. So moving on quickly now, because we're going to run out of time, we can see that there are information days for Cluster 5. You don't need to register. You can actually just attend. It's a 2-day event, so be careful. Make sure you find the bit that you want to look at. And there is a brokerage event specifically for Cluster 5. The website up there, you can register any time until the 5th of July, and you can organise meetings up front. Similarly, there is an information day for Cluster 6 and a brokerage event for Cluster 6, which is happening on the 9th of July. You can register until the 6th. So people always ask us, what is a winning team? Well, to be blunt, it's one that can deliver the expected outcomes within the stated scope and budget and give the evaluators confidence that they can, which is very important. Make sure that you can actually give the confidence to the evaluators. So it's also useful to include exploitation partners. Who's going to take this onwards and actually implement it when nobody wants to see shelfware being delivered? It's also quite useful, therefore, to include things like the end user community, possibly as an advisory board. So things to think about. Who has the best expertise and reputation? Use the tools available. Don't just use partners because you think it would look good or to pad the proposal out. Don't use your friends. Do think about the spread. If more than about 30% of the budget is going to one country, it might be of concern to the evaluators, unless you can show that these are all absolutely essential parts of the programme. But remember, this is a pan-European project that you're putting together a team for here. By far the best way to form a winning team is to be an effective networker. Yes, you can do all those things about searching databases and put your profile up on all of that, but the best way to do it is to actually connect with people. Demonstrate to others that you are the missing piece of their jigsaw, that you are the secret sauce, and that without you, they won't win. So this is the approach you need to take. Don't wait to be invited to the party. Put yourself forward. Join the associations, the partnerships and networking events. Say hi when you join the virtual room. Demonstrate thought leadership and that you are a valuable partner for the consortium. I'll hand over to my colleague Catherine now, I think. Oh, sorry, Helen, to carry on.
Thanks, Louise. And yes, hopefully now you feel well equipped to put together a winning team. Louise has given you lots of tips there on how to go about doing it. But before you take on that proactive approach through the meetings that hopefully you'll have this afternoon and listening to the pitches, I'm going to cover some of the requirements with you so that you're familiar with the requirements for Horizon Europe. So next slide, please. There are many reasons to collaborate internationally, and the Commission doesn't require collaboration just for the sake of it. Horizon Europe is in place because the Commission sees this as a way to benefit from doing collaborative R&D at a European level and beyond, as you'll hear shortly about the requirements. So they really do see the benefits of doing that. They've not put the rules for collaboration in place just for the sake of it. It's about achieving more through collaboration at an international level. So through these presentations today, we'll hope you understand how you can go about finding partners, but also really we'd like to flag the benefits of doing that to you. So you can think about it just not from just a Horizon Europe perspective, but as an overall benefit to your organisation. So whilst collaboration is a requirement for many areas of Horizon Europe, I'll come on to explain what that actually means in practice. I'd just like to highlight the additional benefits from collaboration. So funding is obviously a key one. Whatever organisation type you work for, you're going to need financing and funding to continue your work. And the Commission recognises that. And they've put in place these framework programmes, as they're called, for 7 years to give people certainty about the funding that's going to be available in particular areas. So this certainty is provided through the Horizon Europe programme itself, through the 2-year work programmes that are put in place. So currently we have a work programme for 2021 and 2022. And a novelty for Horizon Europe is the strategic plan, which is a 4-year plan giving direction to research. And this will act as a compass for European research and provides a certainty that may not be evident at a national level. European projects generally have a higher funding rate than national funding and may provide the only source of funding in particular sectors. So if it's not something that's identified as a particular priority for UK funding, you may find that Horizon Europe provides an opportunity. You can solve global grand challenges through collaborative research and innovation, and this is really one of the key reasons why Horizon Europe is in place, to tackle those problems that are not nation specific. They really need a global response. You can be collaborating with world leading organisations, and that will enhance the capabilities of your own organisation. You might gain access to cutting edge technologies or infrastructure and talent. So it might be a way of recruiting new people or retaining people because you're offering them new opportunities to take part in collaborative R&D across Europe. Horizon Europe offers organisations the opportunity to influence standards, regulations and research policies. And by collaborating with countries across the world, we can set the direction of travel together. So, for example, climate change is one issue that's not where working in silos will not achieve the outcomes that we need. But by countries working together, we can create efficient policy and then put in place strategies to actually achieve high impact activities in these areas. Collaborative relationships don't need to be just about the project itself. They can become transactional and lead to exports and other business relationships. And finally, international projects create jobs in the UK and in the EU and across the globe, and they contribute to growth in different sectors and facilitate the sharing of best practice. So today is not just about the collaboration for Horizon Europe. You may come across opportunities to collaborate for other reasons with people you meet today. We're just really hoping to facilitate that networking with Horizon Europe in mind, but I'm sure there'll be many other subjects that are spoken about in the one-to-ones today. Next slide, please. I mentioned that a collaboration is a requirement for many areas of Horizon Europe, and there are several aspects to this. The first is eligibility to take part in a consortium. The second, to receive funding. And finally, to count towards the minimum eligibility criteria. And I'll go through each of those separately. So looking at the eligibility to take part in Horizon Europe, the starting point for participation in Horizon Europe is that it's open to the world, with any legal entity established in the world eligible to participate. That doesn't mean they will all receive funding, I'll come on to that, but any legal entity can participate, as long as there aren't exceptions that are indicated in specific core topics. So you do need to check the core topics itself, but the basic premise is that Horizon Europe is open to the world. Next slide, please. When it comes to receiving funding, there are more limitations. Funding can be allocated to organisations from member states and overseas countries and territories. Countries associated to Horizon Europe, and Jane has flagged the UK position, and I'll just come back to that shortly to reiterate that point about the UK. Also, organisations from low and middle income countries are eligible to receive funding from Horizon Europe. So a list of these will be published. It hasn't yet been published for Horizon Europe, but in Horizon 2020, there are 122 countries on this list, so a significant number of countries, in addition to those that are member states and associated countries, are also eligible to receive funding from the Commission for Horizon Europe projects. The final point on this slide is that some calls from the Commission make provision to fund organisations from specific countries if their participation is considered essential for implementing the action. So that might be if there's a specific capability that projects need to draw upon from elsewhere in the world, But this would be up to the Commission to define. So it would be set out in the call for proposals that organisations from those countries are eligible for funding. Next slide, please. So let's come back to associated status briefly, because this is particularly important from the UK. So Jane has flagged that the UK has agreed to associate to Horizon Europe. This hasn't actually happened yet because the ratification of the programme hasn't taken place at a European level, but the negotiation about UK association has taken place. So there won't be any barriers to that association once the ratification has taken place. Association means that UK organisations will have the same rights and obligations as EU member states. And this is really positive because it's an established arrangement in the framework programme, so it's not going to be new to your partners, your potential partners that you might meet today. They will be familiar with this associated country status, and it means that UK organisations will be eligible to receive funding directly from the Commission. They will count towards the eligibility criteria that I'll come on to explain shortly. And helpfully, the Commission has published a frequently asked questions document that's linked from this slide, to set out exactly what where things are up to with the UK Association and what it means for UK organisations and for potential partners. So please do spread the word about UK eligibility to participate in Horizon Europe. Next slide, please. In addition to the UK, there are many other countries that are looking to associate to Horizon Europe. And firstly, that is the countries that associated to Horizon 2020. These are expected to associate to Horizon Europe, and they're listed here. In addition to that, other countries are exploring association. So we've highlighted on the slide that Canada are in exploratory discussions about possible association to Horizon Europe, focusing on particular areas such as the green and digital transition, so very relevant to cluster 5 and 6 that we're covering today, and referencing green hydrogen. So that's one of the partnerships that could be relevant for. So as I mentioned, associations agreements haven't been finalised with these countries yet, but that doesn't mean that you can't start talking to organisations from these countries about collaboration. They will be eligible to participate in these first calls, and all that needs to happen is that negotiated agreements need to be in place once the grant agreements are finalised. So several months, in fact years, probably a year or so down the line, once these calls have gone through the evaluation process and negotiation process. So please proceed as if these organisations from these countries were already associated. Next slide, please. So in terms of the final element of eligibility, there are specific requirements in relation to the project types. So you need to meet a minimum number of partners to be eligible to submit a research and innovation action or an innovation action. So these are research projects or demonstration projects. So for these, you need at least one independent legal entity established in a member state and at least 2 other independent legal entities, each established in different member states or associated countries. So you need that member state plus at least 2 others from a member state or associated country. Once you've got that basic minimum, you can add to that. So you could have more than one legal entity from a particular country, and many consortia are bigger than that. So it's unusual, let's say, to have just the 3 in a consortium. It's really driven by the types of organisation and where they come from to meet the challenge that the Commission has set out. So you really need to think about which organisations you need to collaborate with in order to meet the challenge that the Commission has set out in the work programme. Next slide, please. So my final slide shows some additional aspects of eligibility related to specific topics in clusters 5 and 6. I've selected some to illustrate some key points. The first in relation to countries and regions that might be relevant to particular topics. So here you can see that in the first point, the Commission is saying that they would envisage that at least one organisation from a country that's a member of Mission Innovation, which is a collaborative activity, an international collaborative activity on clean energy innovation. They would expect an organisation from a non-European member of Mission Innovation to participate. The second one about the scope linked to the African Union. So here is an instance where they would envisage that countries from the African Union, organisations from those countries will be eligible to receive funding. That is the case for most African countries, but it's specifically highlighted here that if they're a member of the African Union, they will be eligible for European Union funding. There's also encouragement to include international cooperation. So here it's advised that organisations from the US, Japan, Canada, South Korea, Singapore and Australia could be relevant to achieve the expected outcomes. And this isn't saying that they would be eligible for funding, it's saying that they could be partners in the project. You're encouraged to include them. There's also encouragement to include third countries and to promote solutions in new markets, for example, in Cluster 5. The second element is on personnel. So here the Commission is encouraging the involvement of experts with social sciences and humanities expertise to be involved in projects. This is very common in Horizon Europe topics. It's something you really need to consider from the start, to involve the relevant experts with social sciences and humanities capabilities. And then finally, that they make recommendations in relation to organisation type. So here the Commission is saying that proposals for a particular topic should involve multidisciplinary consortia involving industrial partners. So they would expect you to approach those industrial partners and to get them involved in your multidisciplinary consortium. That's it from me. And also my final message really would be just to say that whilst it is crucial to meet these eligibility criteria that I've mentioned, as Louise pointed out, the key point here is that you're trying to address the challenges the Commissioner has set. So please do bear that in mind when you're forming your consortia. You do need to meet these eligibility requirements, but you're really targeting organisations that you need to work with in order to achieve the ambitions set out in the work programme. So I'll hand on to Catherine now.
Thanks, Helen. Thank you very much. So you've really had a huge amount of detail about how to find partners, a bit about how to do some of the research that you might need to do, and then sort of the legal requirements. So I'm going to talk about now what is the next step that we think is pretty crucial if you're wanting to find consortium or partners and to sell your expertise. So on the next slide, I'm going to show you some of the key elements that you need to think about. So hopefully my analogy of this deconstructed, I think a ham and cheese sandwich is a good example, highlights about putting together all the key elements that you need for your consortium and how to get the right aspects, the right bits out of the text that you're looking at. So we really are talking here about how to deconstruct the call to be able to identify all the key parts, all the necessary bits and pieces that you're going to need to cover. So one of our first tip really is to print out the text relevant to your call. Make sure you don't probably want to be printing out the whole work programme. I mean, for cluster 6, it's I think 550 odd pages long. I've printed out a couple of bits. It's only 2 destinations and it's already really thick, and that's double-sided and 2 pages a side. So make sure you print out your relevant topic, but also I would say print out or at least read the introductory text. So this is not just the introduction to your destination, but you also need to read the introduction to the whole work programme, because there was some really key important information in those sort of introductory paragraphs. So this is what we say, get intimate with your call. So you need to read and read again the topic description, but you need to also understand the drivers, the political drivers, so understand what policies are behind some of these topics, understand what the key impacts are going to be that you're going to need to achieve within your work, within your proposal. So the proposal itself will highlight what the key impacts are, but the introductory paragraphs will explain what the longer term impacts that you are working towards are as well. And you will need to have those in mind when you're designing your proposal. So you need to read the introduction, and then you need to read the topic really, really carefully. So hopefully once you've done that and you've actually got the information as what you need, you then need to think about who's going to do what bits of the proposal, what infrastructure, what services, what do you actually need to be able to achieve, the impacts and the expected outcomes from which are described in the topic. So this is where your highlighter pen comes in, really, really handy. You go through that topic text, identify what the key words are, what the actions and objectives are, really break it down into its key elements. So what I actually do is I copy and paste the topic text into a table. I break it down into all the different key elements. So that's right from the beginning from the budget. It may be, do you need to have Canadian partners, African partners in, and break it down into each element. Some of it might just be one word, some of it might be a sentence, some of it might be a paragraph. And then if you have it in a column view, have a column next to it, and you can then fill in all the where you want, what you want to, how you want to address each part of those different elements. Have a think then about what research do you need to do. So Louise has already showed you how to find partners and how to look at projects on Cordis. So have a look at what previous projects have been funded in your area, thinking about what links there may be to other projects, other topics, and then, as I mentioned, policies. So in Cluster 6, policies are really important. It's all outlined in the work programme, what policy drivers are behind these topics in this cluster. So it's make sure you know what those are and you understand the requirements. Then on the next slide, I'm going to talk then about how do we actually develop a proposal outline. So we always suggest putting together a sort of a 1 or 2 pager. And even if you're not looking for partners, you may need to have to sell your idea for your project internally to management, or you may be wanting to find partners or consortia. So pulling together a 1 or 2 page outline summary is a really good idea. Now, I've found that when we've suggested this before, sometimes people, the natural tendency really is to only write about the research. And it's really easy to understand why people do that. But the proposal itself is not just about the research. You have to talk about the impact. You have to talk about the implementation. So we really need to start developing your proposal outline alongst those 3 headings, not just the research. So when we're thinking about the language that you're using, again, if you're going to be looking for partners, they're not going to be necessarily have English as a first language. So don't make it too complicated, make it really easy to read. And then think about using the language, about mirroring the wording in the call. So you're making sure that you're getting that continuity through. Then think about what background. So are there any suggested documents to read? Some topics will have additional documents that are associated to that topic or that you need to work towards. So make sure you've got all the documents from the topic to do with the topic, but there may be other background information that you need to look at. And then start to think about things like what resources you're going to be needing. So again, it's important. Thinking about the research innovation is great, but you need to think about the impact and the outcome and the implementation. So when we talk about this proposal outline, it is really useful to think about that, the why, what, who, how. So first of all, when it comes to the why, so why is the project being carried out? So there will be some background in the topic description, but you need to think about what is the EU added value that you're going to be bringing. So Horizon Europe is really, it's a European programme. It's bringing an international, a global angle to your research. And so then the EU is funding research and innovation projects that one country on their own wouldn't be able to necessarily tackle on their own. So you need to think about how your consortium can address the problem and then have the impact at a European or an international level. Then we think about what is it you're going to do? How are you going to address the call topic specifications? So again, and I know I keep saying this, but read every line, every word in the call topic really, really carefully. You need to read them at least 2 or 3 times so that you can really understand what it means, and then think about how you're going to address what the Commission is looking for. Think about the scopes and the limits of what you want to do. You might want to list your objectives, making sure that you know what the state of the art is so you can demonstrate how you're going to go beyond this and that you're doing something new. And then also think about the interdisciplinarity, so the engagement of citizens, civil societies and end users. So Helen mentioned that some of this might be specified in the topic description, but are these elements, do you think these would add something to your project that you need to bring in? Then we think about who. So this is about the implementation aspect of the project. So it might be useful to include a table or a diagram of who's going to do what. You may know who some of the players are going to be. Others, you may just have to describe a role, or maybe even a target country or regions that you want to have involved. But then make sure there's no redundancies. There are no prizes for including partners from certain countries or certain regions. Everybody there has to be doing a job and making sure they are bringing something to the party. So no redundancies. You don't want any overlaps or unexplained gaps in functionality. And then, as I said, as Helen mentioned, make sure any additional requirements or suggestions from the topic description are included here. You also need to make sure that thinking about your consortium and advisory groups have got the necessary expertise. So think about things like cost, workload, budget. Even though it's all going to be a rough estimate at this stage, it does help to put some sort of idea of what you're thinking about in. And then finally, we're going to think about the how. So outline how you're going to address the outcome, again, specified in the work programme. A simple work plan and phases of work would be useful. And then what do you expect to have achieved at the end of the project? It may even be worthwhile putting in what you don't want to achieve, what you're not going to be covering at this early stage. And then again, thinking about dissemination, exploitation and communication. They're really, really important aspects of your project. So you need to have a partner or a group of partners who are going to be able to cover those aspects really well. Now, on the next slide, please. So what next? So we've gone through the basics. And we've gone through everything that all the eligibility criteria. We've gone about how to pull together a summary. So the thing is to use the National Contact Point Service. So we are here as a team. I know Louise has already gone through this slide, but we are here to help you understand and decide for the work programme if you're not sure. We are in contact with all of our European counterparts. So if you're looking for partners, either generally across Europe or you want to target a specific country, we can do that through our international NCP network. And as Louise said, she even knows NCP, she works with NCPs outside of Europe. So we really do have a global reach. So we're here, as I said, if you're wanting to understand about past programmes, you want to know how to find links to projects that have already been funded, and you're not quite sure how to do it, please come and talk to us. This is what we're here to do. We're free and we're confidential. Thank you, Louise. So the next steps, the KTN have a website and some pages for covering Horizon Europe. There is a page for each cluster. So not only do they have an overview, but there is a cluster 5 and a cluster 6 page, which has got slides and recordings of some webinars we did a few months ago, which give an overview of the cluster. There's also links to the European Commission webinars on proposal writing, submission, evaluation. They've got ones on impact and gender as well. If you are wanting to start thinking about getting NDAs, memorandums of understandings, or any support that you think you might want on IPR, so whether you're talking about background IPR, then the EU's IPR help desk has got some useful templates on there. They also have some lots of info sheets and things like that, so that's another useful resource. And then UCRO, the UK Research Office, they have a regularly updated fact sheet. They have a subscriber section, but the fact sheet is open to anybody. This is covering the UK participation on funding programmes. And then if you are a subscribing organisation, there are additional information on their website as well. And then the next step, the next page is covering, just a reminder about the info days and the brokerage events. We will all be involved in our own respective brokerage events. I will be watching the info day. It's a really good way if you're wanting to ask a question to the Commission. They've been really useful in the past. So please make sure that you have a look at those info days and brokerage events. They'll be really useful if you are looking for partners, or you're wanting to just get your name out there, just show that, you know, start getting your name noticed amongst the European community is a really good way of doing that. And then the next slide is on the final documents and the outline. So I think as Louise mentioned, all the work programmes are now, and the topics are now on the funding and tenders portal. We have noticed that there are some discrepancies between the topic description that's in the work programme and what the information that is on the portal. So I know Louise has contacted the Commission about this to find out what's going on, but just so that you know, the work programme is the definitive legal text. It has been approved by the programme committee, so that is the text to go by. But if you are not sure, please check with us and we can make sure that you know which is the right relevant information. But I am sure the information on the tenders portal will be sorting itself out in the next day or two. So the reference document, you need to make sure you've got the work programme, and there are also the templates, guides, and the annotated model grant agreement. Some of these documents are quite hefty. The model grant agreement is also another large document. So if you're not quite sure how to navigate through these documents, again, please contact us. We have another colleague who's on today. Stephen Alexander is our Legal and Finance NCP, and he can answer any questions with regards to legalities, funding, finances of the project as well. So then have a look on, we always recommend Cordis to have a look at what's been funded already, which organisations are involved. Get your proposal outline. I said, even if you may have to sell it internally, you're going to have to pull together some sort of outline. So think about that: who, why, what, when. I wasn't quite sure, but you'll have the slides. There's some key bullet points. Follow those, and you can't go far wrong. And then approach your potential partners. Really is good to work with people that you know already. Use your existing networks. Join the relevant networks and associations. And again, if you're not quite sure where to go, please come and talk to us and we can give you some suggestions. And I think that might be the last slide, and I'm 2 minutes early. So Jane, I hope you're impressed with our timing, and we will now ask any questions.
Thank you, Catherine. Right, over to the Q&A now. So first of all, so maybe Louise, you can answer this one. How does an NCP differ from a local support office?
National contact points are appointed by central government in the UK, so we work through Innovate UK and UKRI directly for BEIS. So we are public servants. We specialise just in Horizon Europe. 80% of my time is spent just working with organisations specifically just on Horizon Europe. Other support services will be incredibly useful, and you should always use all of the advice sources you can access, but Horizon Europe national contact points are specialists just in their part of the Horizon Europe programme and nothing else, so they give you the detail and depth. We also do once the UK's association is complete, we will be part of the programme committee delegates, so we'll be interacting and engaging with the European Commission on behalf of the UK to help shape the future work programmes as they develop as well. Okay.
And to follow up on that, Louise, how do you identify your local support office?
I'm not quite sure what a local support office always is. There is the Innovate UK Edge, for example, who is a regional based organisation which is part of the EEN, the Enterprise Europe Network. So national contact points, we work across across the whole country, but within the sector. I should imagine local support offices would be different. These might, of course, be we do have regional, so the devolved assemblies, the devolved governments, there are national contact points there for Northern Ireland, Scotland, for example, and there's a Welsh office for European funding support. So we can, if you have a particular request, contact one of us as a national contact point, and we'll work with you to find the right additional support that would be useful for you.
Thank you, Louise. Next, are there any plans to restore the Interreg 2 Seas programme? Who wants to take that?
Not sure we're involved in Interreg. That's a structural fund, and I think as part of Brexit, we don't participate in structural funds anymore. That would be my answer, and Louise is nodding.
Yeah, I think it's something to pick up with other people. It's not our area of expertise.
Yes, it's not our area of expertise, but as it would be a structural fund, the UK won't be participating in that anymore.
Can you give some examples of what tangible European added value looks like?
Who wants to pick that? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. It really is about, it is bringing together something which is greater than the sum of its parts. So obviously you're looking for how are you going to be adding value to some of the European policies that will be mentioned in the topic and the work programme introductory paragraphs. It's about how are you going to be improving the lives of the citizens. What are the drivers behind your topic, and then working towards those. So obviously, if we're looking at a transport one, it might be EU added value might be working towards some of the climate change and air quality policies. It might be to do with improving the competitiveness of the transport sector in Europe. There are going to be lots of drivers, and the clues will be there. They will be in the work programme, either in the topic description or the introduction. So that will tell you what your EU added value is. If you're not sure, come and talk to us and we can help you identify what it is.
Thank you, Catherine. And following up from that, Catherine, there is a question that you obviously indicated you must outline the added value to the EU when developing a proposal. But what about the value for the UK, and how, now that the UK has left the EU and it's no longer a member?
So when it comes, we get the question asked about policies and things quite a lot, and obviously there are going to be some areas where we start to diverge away from EU policies, but we're not going to be going completely different. There will be areas of commonality. It might not be exactly the same, but there will be areas of commonality that we can work towards. So it is identifying those common aspects that we can provide expertise to. If it is not relevant at all, then why would you want to take part in the topic? So if there's no relevance to the UK, then the topic won't be of interest to you. If it is working towards EU policies and there are commonalities, or if you're talking about things like supply chains, Europe isn't a bubble. There will be global international supply chains that they need to take into account. So it may be, how does that policy work with non-EU policies that you need to think about? So it is thinking about the international aspect and finding those common areas of expertise, and then you won't go far wrong. I don't know if anyone else has got anything to add.
Well, yes, I use the analogy for those of us of an older generation. The younger guys, you might have to look this up. Betamax and VHS. Everybody says that, and you look it up on Wikipedia, Betamax was the better home video standard, but the world adopted VHS. We in the UK don't want to be developing the Betamax solutions when the rest of the world has gone VHS. The UK government is contributing an additional 16% of the budget of Horizon Europe to top up additionally. So that's, a considerable amount of money. It's 95.5 billion. The UK is going to put in another 16% on top of that, because we recognise the importance of UK consortia or UK organisations building solutions that are fit for the global market. And as Helen said earlier, these Horizon Europe programmes are open to the world. Lots of those in the transport part of the project specifically state, that it's advisory to include Japan, Singapore, China, etc. in the project. So developing solutions with these international consortia means that the solution that's coming out from the UK organisation is already fit for the world stage and ready to be, adopted. So as I said earlier, we said it's about exports, bottom line. That's what the bottom line for the UK government is. If we can develop systems and solutions in a consortium with international partners, the likelihood is that we can sell those to those international organisations or be part of those international consortia that develop the world leading solutions.
Yeah, I would just add about just tying it down to your organisation, well, objectives as well, but it has to be something that is in line with your strategy. Many people come to us and say, well, I've got this idea, how can I find funding for it? And that's understandable because you've got a strategy you're trying to implement as an organisation. But really, for the European programmes, you have to think about how you're contributing to what the Commission is trying to achieve. And yes, that is slightly from a different context now in the UK, but nonetheless, the principle that Horizon Europe is about advancing the state of the art at a European level, so the European organisations, including those who aren't in the European Union, can compete on a global stage, and that we can address these global challenges is still the same. So we do have to think of ourselves as a very small piece in a big jigsaw that we're trying to contribute to the overall policies and strategies of the Commission.
Yes, I mean, I just saw a question come in or a comment. European competitiveness means those of us who have associated to the programme as well, it means the whole of the geography and the competitiveness is against the rest of the world, if you like. So it's to see that European, including associate country, competitive advantage over and above, say, for example, North America or South America or the Far East. So European competitiveness is absolutely one of the critical components of Horizon Europe, and that includes UK.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you. The next question is for Louise. Do you have any information on the success rates and other stats on Horizon 20 as a guide for people wanting to submit?
Yes, there is anybody who wants to have a look. You can look at, there's something called the Horizon 2020 dashboard. You can look at success rates for different sectors and different countries. And so, for example, I looked at it recently, and in 2020, so in last year, 35% of the transport projects that were funded had UK participation. So this is pretty good. And also you can see the success rate that UK in transport projects had a 30% success rate. So if your project, your proposal had a UK member in the team, then you had a 30% success rate. So I think that's pretty good from a competitive position. So if you had a 3 in 10 chance of being funded in these, that's quite strong.
Thank you. We have a question on how do you register for the brokerage partner events in July?
Click on the links that were given. I'll put them in the chat later.
Yeah, that's easy. And next, let's have a look. We've got one on how do you assess if your project fits better under Horizon Europe or different mobility funding schemes?
Mobility, if we're talking about different UK funding schemes, well, they tend to be quite specific. There are things coming out of Innovate UK and UKRI on a regular basis. I think it comes again to, you should be trying to answer the exam question as set and not trying to find a source of funding for your innovation. This is like doing your history exam. You might have a great essay ready to go on and a great answer all about Julius Caesar, but if the question is on Henry VIII, you're not going to score very highly. So it's again, look at the scope of the call for proposals, of the competition, and ensure that what you want to do is within that.
And I found the question, it actually mentions things like Cesar, and so it's about how to balance between looking for Horizon Europe and some of the JUs and
Okay.
partnerships and things.
We've not mentioned the specific joint undertaking partnerships in this meeting today, because those are still under development and they aren't going to do their first calls for proposals until late this year, early next, possibly. So the CESAR, Clean Aviation and Europe's Rail tend to be quite high technology readiness level because they're working towards demonstrations. And so the call for proposals as published, the topics as published in the work programme. So there are a couple of aviation ones, for example. Those are quite low technology readiness level and quite broad, and they're research and innovation actions. So those tend to be the way that the split is. But again, those are the sorts of questions when we're talking about specific. Where does my innovation sit, or which one should I do? Those are the things that we really encourage you to contact us, and we'll set up a one-to-one call, really.
Thank you, Louise. Well, thank you. I think that's most of the questions. We do have questions around when these slides will be available. For this event, we're aiming for the end of the week. And just to say, the earlier event on last Monday is available on the KTN website. I'm sure we can put the link in there. We will be moving to a break now. If you can come back at 11:25 UK time. And we will then go, there's questions around the pitching. We will then, let me just get to the back to